Hi guys, it's Louisa. Today's video is going to be about the question, what makes a good dancer? I'm going to give my thoughts as a dancer / dance teacher and discuss some concepts that I think go into discussing this particular question. Now, if you're not a dancer, please don't immediately tune out. I do think that this discussion could be relevant to you, especially if you're someone as an actor or a singer or an artist in another form such as painting or anything like that. I think that this discussion can certainly be substituted for your situation as well. Or even if you're just someone who really enjoys their hobby or they make a living doing what they love, then I think that this discussion really could be interesting to you as well. So I hope that you non-dancers or people that don't consider themselves dancers stick around, and I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments and see what you think about this particular topic. Before I launch into the video, I just want to say, please follow me on my social medias. My YouTube Instagram is @louisa.ruby. My dance Instagram is @louisa_r_holland. And you can also follow me on Pinterest @louisa_ruby. All of these links will be in the description box down below. And without any further ado, let's get started. What makes a good dancer? This is a question that I think really affects a lot of dancers, and it affects their self-confidence. And it's a question that they ask themselves internally. A lot of dancers ask themselves, am I a good dancer in their heads? Am I good enough? And it's a question that is just kind of interesting. And so I want to dive in to what that question means and what's the criteria. How do you define a good dancer? So to actually get an answer to this question, I think we have to answer or look at another question that often happens in the dance community and in general, and that is dance a sport? Now you might be going, what does dance being a sport or not, how does that relate to how do you define what is a good dancer? Let me explain. So tell me whether or not you agree. It's easier to say what makes a good baseball player or a good basketball player or a good golfer than it is what makes a good dancer. Now you may either agree or disagree with this statement. There's a big difference between sports and dance, and let me explain why. So let's take a look at baseball. Baseball is considered to be the sport with the most statistics. There's a lot of numbers and quantitative, is that the right word? Quantitative? There is a lot of statistics involved, and there are a lot of factors that are looked at and recorded in baseball. For example, one of the things that can be measured in baseball is how fast a pitcher pitches the ball. We can also see, how many home runs a baseball player has hit. How many times do they get on base? There's a lot of different things that you can quantify and put a number to. Same thing in basketball. You can record and you can see the total number of times someone hits a three-pointer. Now, people may make the argument, there's plenty of things that are quantitative in dance. And yes, you're absolutely right. For example, we can record the number of turns that a dancer does, like 3 pirouettes. Great. We can also measure the angle of a dancer, such as with their arabesque. Their legs right at 90. Nice. Great. But here's where it starts to get tricky between sports and dance. In sports, generally, if someone hits a home run, we all know what a home run is. It's classified as a home run. But would we still classify it as a home run if, I don't know, the batter had his shoulders up here and he hit a home run and it went into the bleachers? Yeah, we'd still count it. It doesn't matter that his shoulders are up here. He hit it over. Great. But in dance, let's take the example of someone hitting 3 pirouette turns. Now, if someone does 3 pirouette turns, here we go, 1, 2, 3. But if they did it with their shoulders up, people would say, well, they may not have done 3 turns because this isn't proper technique. But if their shoulders were like this, then yes, it counted. What if they weren't spotting when they did those 3 pirouette turns? Do those 3 turns still count as hitting 3 turns consistently? This is what makes it really tricky. In sports, there are rules and guidelines, as opposed to dance, where it's kind of classifications and technique and how something is done. So that's one kind of difference, and is one reason why this question is hard. There's not a straight statistic that you can answer this question with for dance. Another difference between sports and dance is the intent or the purpose. Now let's take the example of basketball. When you're playing basketball, the goal, the intent is always the same. You want to make the most baskets. You want to beat the other team. With dance, the intent or the purpose or the goal changes all the time. For example, you may have a dance where the goal or the intent is to make the audience happy. You want to have that feeling of joy, and you want the choreography and the piece to reflect that. Other times, you want to portray something that's sad and you want to have that emotion there. Other times, you want to show off things technique-wise or skills-wise as opposed to making the audience feel something. So another big difference between sports and dance is that the intent and the purpose changes all the time. This also makes it hard for us to determine what makes a good dancer, because the intent and purpose of why they're dancing constantly changes. However, in sports, the objective generally always remains the same. And then dance does yet another thing that makes this so tricky, and that's that dance has so many different styles. Sports may have different leagues, and they might, be for different age groups, and so rules may vary a little bit, but the same overall concept of the game always stays the same. In dance, there are so many different types of dance. We've got jazz, we've got ballet, we've got tap, we have Irish, we have flamenco. We have so many different types. With how many different styles of dance there are, this again adds even more layers to what makes a good dancer. Because, for example, let's say you have someone who is a really good tap dancer. They're very advanced, their sounds are clear as a bell, but let's say maybe they're not good at ballet. They just, for whatever reason, ballet it doesn't come as easily to them as tap. So would you say that they're still a good dancer? Or would you say they're not a good dancer because they're not good at both genres? This is where it gets tricky, right? And let's be honest, with all the different types and genres of dance, it would be impossible to become an expert in all of them. There's this idea that 10,000 hours of doing something deliberately makes you an expert at something. This was based on Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outliers. I was reading that, so I wanted to make sure I got that right. So if it takes 10,000 hours to make yourself an expert at something and to become an expert at one particular style of dance, that would be, if you were to master every single style of dance, you would have to put in over 100,000 hours of dance. Like, let's be honest, if it's 10,000 per each style, then we think about all the different dance types there are in the world. That's ridiculous. I mean, that's a lot of time. So, with all of that being said, what do I think makes a good dancer? And you guys may think that this is a cop-out answer, and that's okay. But I don't think what makes a good dancer, what is a good dancer, or am I a good dancer, is a good question to be asking ourselves internally. I just think it's too hard of a question. There are so many different aspects and ways to go about it and define what's good. There's too many genres. There's too many qualitative things. The intent and the purpose of why you're dancing or why you're dancing a particular piece. Choreography is going to be different all the time. So it's so hard to say this is good or this is good. And there's just way too many factors. So I think we dancers are so hard on ourselves, and we always want to be good at what we do. And I think instead of asking ourselves a question that if you ask every dancer and even every non-dancer in the world what makes a good dancer, they're going to have a completely different answer for you. And so why do we ask that question to ourselves? You know, that's a really hard question to answer. So instead, I think each dancer needs to ask themselves these questions internally instead. What do I like about my dancing? What are qualities that you like or, you think are good about your dancing? For me, I think I have performance quality. I really try to tell a story or convey the intent of a piece through my face. What do you like? Take stock of what you like about your dancing. And then the other question I think dancers should also have in their head is, what do I want to improve on in my dancing? For me, that would be technique. And there's so many things that go into technique. So many things. Pointing toes, making sure your legs are straight, making sure your shoulders are down, making sure your arms are at the right height. There's so many things to work on. So I think the whole question, what makes a good dancer, is unhealthy, and it's also really hard to determine. I think there are better questions that we can ask ourselves, such as, what do I think I do well? And what do I think I need to improve on? The question, am I a good dancer, is a really hard one to answer. And I think it's time to put away that question for a while because there's just way too many factors. And dancers are already hard on ourselves. We need to take a step back. So those are my thoughts about this particular topic. I hope that you guys found this interesting. I would love to hear your comments and your thoughts about this. So please leave comments down below. Please like this video if you found this discussion fun and interesting. And of course, please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you would like to see more videos and content from me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys again soon with a brand new video. Bye-bye.